This podcast is brought to you by Progressive. Are you thinking more about how to tighten up your budget these days? Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save over $700 on average, and customers can qualify for an average of 6 discounts when they sign up. A little off your rate each month goes a long way. Get a quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed in 2020. Potential savings will vary. Discounts vary and are not available in all states and situations.
Nobody builds 5G like Verizon builds 5G, because we're the engineers who built the most reliable network in America. And the more you do with 5G, the more building it right matters. The more your network matters. The more Verizon engineers going the extra mile matters. It's us pushing us. It's Verizon versus Verizon. 5G built right from America's most reliable network. Most reliable based on rankings from RootMetrics second half 2020 U.S. report of 3 mobile networks. Results may vary. Award is not an endorsement.
Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Monday edition of the Yard. It's still Sunday for a little bit longer. I'm recording a little bit earlier than normal, but I wanted to take some time to collect some thoughts, and I've got some things to share. And I might sound a little bit whiny today, and to be honest with you, I don't care. I'm going to say them anyway. I've got some things that I think that need to be said, and I think many of you will agree. I think there's some other things that I'll say that I might step on your toes, and if I do, I hope it hurts. But we'll get to that a little bit later. I would be remiss if we did not talk about a couple things that are going to take place this week involving Mississippi State athletics. Mississippi State men's golf playing in an NCAA regional. Let's talk a little bit about that. We're going to be at the Tumble Creek Golf and Country Club up in Washington. Mississippi State, the 11 seed out of 14 teams there. In that regional will be Wake Forest, Pepperdine, Florida, Arizona, San Francisco, Iowa, Washington, East Tennessee State, Utah, Oregon, Mississippi State, Long Beach State, Denver, Sacramento State. Also, too, there'll be some individuals that will be playing there as well that perhaps their team didn't make it, but they made it as individuals. And so that'll get underway this week, and wish those folks the best. That'll run May 17th through 19th, so that'll begin on Monday and run through Wednesday. And so good on those guys for making the tournament, and best of luck to you all. Then also, too, it was announced on Sunday, Mississippi State softball in an NCAA regional. That'll take place this coming weekend out in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Mississippi State makes it as a 2 seed in the Stillwater Regional. Of course, Oklahoma State will be the host there. Oklahoma State Cowgirls, I guess is what they call them, 42-9. They will take on Campbell in a 1-4 matchup. Mississippi State will take on Boston U, who is 36-2 on the year. I think this is actually a good draw for Mississippi State. Oklahoma State, a number 5 national seed, and you knew Mississippi State wouldn't necessarily get a favorable draw, but I like the fact that we're not paired with an SEC team. We have never won an NCAA regional in softball. Never done it. Now, they've only been playing it, several years now. It hadn't been, decades. It's something that's still a relatively new sport in this current regional format, but we have never won a regional. I don't know if it happens this year, but I think after what's happened here in the last couple of weeks, we're awfully proud of Coach Samantha Ricketts and Tyler Bratton and Josh Johnson and the crew there and the work they have done. The team has played exceptionally well. You guys know they did a great job in the SEC tournament. They make the tournament. They beat Ole Miss in the tournament and then lose to Florida, who finished second, losing to Alabama in the SEC tournament. So happy to still be playing softball. I know some of you really follow them very, very closely. I've got some friends locally that don't miss a game. And so eager for you guys to have a chance to watch them this week. Probably will be on an app somewhere rather than on television. But be that as it may, we're still playing softball. And about a month ago, I don't think any of us expected us to be in a regional, but we are. And so if I'm Oklahoma State, I'm not real happy, though. It's like, you get Mississippi State all of a sudden, they kind of catch lightning in a bottle, and then they're headed to your place. And so they have beaten some quality teams. Don't know how long the road lasts, but happy that we're still on it. And again, best of luck to the ladies out there. We're going to talk a lot about baseball today. We're going to talk an awful lot about baseball today. We're not just going to talk about Missouri. We're going to talk about Alabama. We're going to talk about really the state of the program and what are reasonable expectations for Mississippi State baseball? And again, I may come off a little bit whiny today, and I'm okay with that, because I'm going to say what I got to say. What I've got to say is also sponsored by the fine folks at Bulldog Burger Company. Great people, man. I tell you what, I had a discussion with John Bean last week, and I'm a big fan of John's. I'm a big fan of that whole group for what they do to help feed us here in Starkville. That entire group of restaurants, man, just upper crust for sure. Throughout the Golden Triangle, these people know exactly what they're doing. Bulldog Burger Company, part of that great family. 2 locations to serve you right now, right here on University Drive in Start Vegas and on Gloucester Street there in Tupelo. And coming soon, Lake Harbor Drive there in Ridgewood. You need to go by and check that out. And listen, I shared with you guys on Friday, and there's been some incredible response. And thank all of you that retweeted my tweet. All 3 locations looking for some help right now. And so if you were looking for a fun job with a great company, look no further than Bulldog Burger Company. Maybe perhaps you've got a college graduate or somebody else in your life that says, you know what, they would do a good job for these folks. Go apply, or you can go to eatwithus.com to get more information. Bulldog Burger Company, a great, great place with great food, great prices, great atmosphere. And I'm not just saying this from an employment standpoint because they're sponsors to the show. My nephew Dan Kennedy worked at the one here in Starkville and absolutely loved it. I mean, to this day, he is very grateful to me for putting in a good word for him. And listen, I don't think they hired him just because he was my nephew, but I know that they're glad they did. He's done a great job for them and hated to leave. That was one of the things he told me about when he graduated from Mississippi State, was leaving the Bulldog Burger Company family. So maybe you guys can go be the next Dan Kennedy at that place there in Starkville, or perhaps Tupelo is better for you, or Ridgewood. And I know that place in Ridgewood is going to be extremely well managed. Ian Feud, the former manager here in Starkville, headed down there, moving his crew down there, and they're going to do a great job. So again, Bulldog Burger Company looking to hire you and feed you. Go by, check them out today. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. MEAT. So it was an awful weekend of baseball in Starkville. We were very fortunate to win a game. And it's disappointing. It's absolutely disappointing. We had so much at stake, and what stinks so bad is we got the help we needed around the league, and we just didn't take care of our end of it. Had we swept Missouri, we would be tied for first place in the SEC right now with a weekend to go, and the team we would be tied with, Arkansas, would be hosting Florida, a team that's been red hot down the stretch, currently tied with Mississippi State in the SEC standings. They would hold the tiebreaker for a couple reasons why. And let me break this down for you as best I can. We didn't play Florida head-to-head. That's the first tiebreaker. The second one is best divisional record. Well, we're not in the same division, so you've got to go to the cross-divisional tiebreaker, which means it would be against, common record against the number 1 seed. Well, that is probably going to be Arkansas. So if Arkansas is the number 1 seed, we went 0-3. Florida hadn't played them yet, so if Florida wins a game this weekend, then they would win the tiebreaker against us. In the event that they get swept, then and Mississippi State got swept, we'd still be tied. Then they would go to the number 2 seed, which could be Vanderbilt or Tennessee. We didn't play Tennessee. So it keeps going till you find a common opponent in the SEC tournament seeding. And so basically, I don't see a way for us to win a tiebreaker because obviously we went 1 out of 3 against Vanderbilt. They beat Vanderbilt. So Florida would obviously win the tiebreaker. So the best thing for us is we need to win 1 more game than Florida does this weekend. So we need to win our series at Alabama, and we need Arkansas to win that series because chances of us winning the league are basically over at this point. Basically completely over. And so now we're thinking about seeding. We're thinking about our place in the SEC pecking order. And so we need to finish, obviously, in the top 5, and the higher in the top 5 we can finish, the better. So that said, there are a few things that I want to say about Mississippi State baseball. So a few years ago, I decided, we had grown so much as a business over at Gene's Page that we needed to incorporate road baseball into our coverage. I don't just mean going over to Tuscaloosa. I don't mean just going to Hoover, running down to Jackson, Trustmark Park. And we wanted to do all that stuff too. But we wanted to give you guys the best coverage available about Mississippi State baseball. once I began to do road baseball, I got a great deal of joy from it. And I began to ask myself, why would I ever deny myself the joy of going to cover Mississippi State, play baseball on the road? In most cases, I am the only member of the media that does it. I know a lot of people talk a lot about Mississippi State baseball. A lot of people write about Mississippi State baseball. But I'm there. I go. I go tour the facilities. I cover the games in person. I talk to coaches and players in the postgame. That's why a lot of times when you read postgame stories from other people, they don't have quotes because they're not there. And I don't say that to throw shots at anybody else. I'm just telling you that we have made a real commitment to Mississippi State baseball coverage. That will continue for as long as I am healthy enough to do it. As long as I have the wherewithal and the ability and the resources, I will cover Mississippi State baseball home and away for as long as I can. I think I'm still young enough that I've got a few decades of this left in me, but we'll see. Maybe at some point my grandkids are old enough and I may have to make a decision between watching them play sports and going and doing road baseball series. And that's going to be a very difficult conversation for me to have with my family. But I love going. I do. I love Mississippi State baseball. And some of the things that I'm about to say, I know that when I say this, I speak for you too. I don't think you will disagree with any of this. But I'm going to say it because I believe it needs to be said. So the first thing that I want to say is because of this extensive travel that I've done the last few years covering Mississippi State road baseball, I think I can speak authoritatively when I say we have the best college baseball facility in the Southeastern Conference and certainly in the country because the SEC just is simply more committed to building facilities than anybody else. There's nobody else in the country that competes from a facility standpoint that the SEC does. It's not close. If you've been out and done any road regionals or you've toured some facilities, you get out and go see some places. I had a chance to went to Nebraska and had a chance to go see their baseball facility. Hey, they're good, but they're not in the same caliber of what we have in the SEC. It's not close. Been to Florida State, been to Miami, been to Clemson, been a lot of few places. And it's just not close. Now, a lot of people will get out here and argue and say, oh, man, Baum Stadium is great. Baum Stadium's not even in the top three. Now, you want to start judging atmosphere? Yeah, they're right there with us. It is a phenomenal atmosphere at Baum Stadium. But from a facility standpoint and from a venue standpoint, it is not on the level of Mississippi State, Duty Noble Field. It's not on the level of Founders Park at South Carolina. And I would submit not as good as University Stadium at Ole Miss. I think those are the top three in the SEC. Now, if you know how much I dislike Ole Miss, you know how difficult it is for me to say that. But there is a big gap between Duty Noble, Founders Park, and then everybody else. There really is. Alex Box is great from an atmosphere standpoint. The grandstand is outstanding. But with all of those placards out on the outfield wall, it looks very minor leaguey. They have the aluminum bleachers down the foul lines. It looks rather cheap. That's what they have in the outfield. It's not the same. And that place has kind of gotten old on them too. It's relatively new, but it's, they probably should have invested a little more money in that facility. I really like Plainsman Park at Auburn. It's downright cozy. They've got some room to grow there, but there's just no interest in baseball at Auburn. I think Alabama's nice. It's just not on a level of what everybody else has. I mean, you can run all the way to it. Bluebell Park at A&M, if they've let that place get really old, it looks decent on television, but it's not nice. It's not. They got the brick out there, and they don't have any outfield seating. They blow those bubbles, which is kind of annoying, but it's not a great facility. I would venture to say it is probably, 6th or 7th in the West. They think it's great. It's not. They hadn't traveled much. To get to the East, I haven't covered a game at the new Florida Stadium. I have seen it. I've covered games at the old stadium. And the new Florida grandstand looks a lot like the new grandstand at Duty Noble Field because the same people designed it. It's great, but the atmosphere is lacking. Tennessee is extremely antiquated. They used some of Todd Helton's money, upgraded the outfield. They did some things to make it look good on television, but The fan experience in and of itself is nowhere close to what it is in the rest of the league. I would say Tennessee, arguably, 12th or 13th in the league, Missouri being the worst. I haven't covered a game in Kentucky. I have seen their facilities. Reasonably close. Hadn't had a chance to go tour the stuff underground. Maybe one day next time I'm up there, I'll leave early enough that I can hit Nick up and say, hey, Nick, can I get a tour? It's not great. Georgia's the only one that I hadn't seen up close. But I've talked to enough people that will tell you, Georgia's just kind of middle of the road in the SEC at best. But here's the deal with all of that. As great as Dudy Noble Field is, and it is incredible, it is. We have so much to be proud of and for. I want so much more than that. I don't want to just be known as the school that spent a ton of money and built this grand cathedral to college baseball. I want that, but I want so much more. I want SEC titles. I want national championships. I don't just want the stadium. Now, I also believe there's a means to an end here, too. I believe by building this great stadium, it'll help us in recruiting, which will in turn get us better players, which will bring those conference and national championships. I firmly believe that. But I want more. I want more than just to say, you know what, hey, man, you got to go see a ball game at Dudy Noble Field. It is incredible. I want them to say that's the home of the national champions. We spend a lot of time in this state comparing ourselves to Ole Miss, and rightfully so. I mean, listen, Ole Miss under Bianco has been really good. But we've been better. Over the course of the last decade, we've been markedly better. Matter of fact, in the last 5 years, what's our record? 16-3 against them? It's not close. It's not really a rivalry. Now, of course, we never want them to win, but listen, let's be honest. I give Mike Bianco a lot of credit. He has built some real tradition at a place that didn't have a whole lot. In the early 70s, I guess in the Tom Swayze days, they had some really good teams. And they had Jay Gibbs, and listen, they were just an also-ran in the SEC. And I know Mike Bianco gets a lot of grief from Ole Miss fans because they don't know that he can get them over the hump, and I don't know that he can either. But they've been really good. And in the early 2000s, you could argue they were great. But we've been better. You can say, well, Steve, I don't know. You're wrong. Do the math. Go pull up the records yourself. Stop your self-loathing nonsense. We're better than them. They know it, and everybody that has a brain knows it as well. Look, how many times this is the glory days of their program under Mike Bianco. They've been to Omaha one time. We went in 07, went in 13, went in 18, went in 19. We've been 4 times. They've been once in the glory years of their program. We are better, period. But here's the deal. I want so much more than that. I don't just want to be better than Ole Miss because we've already established that they're really good, but we're already better. So we've already accomplished that. Just as we've accomplished having the greatest baseball stadium in the country. We've already accomplished that. I want to be more than just being better than Ole Miss. If you speak to some of these players from the 70s and 80s, they almost scoff at the notion that Ole Miss is close to us. And perhaps they can't be really objective, but it's like, Ole Miss, I mean, come on. That was just another game to us. When I interviewed Rafael Palmeiro for Alpha Dogs, I even asked him, are there any games with Ole Miss you really remember? He goes, no, not really. The games that we remember were LSU, Alabama, Auburn. We just didn't have a lot of big games against Ole Miss. And we've had some, the last 20 years. But we've dominated the rivalry the last 5 years. Dominated it. It's not close. But I want more than that. I want more than to just be better than Ole Miss. Now, we can get out of here, we can talk about all the scholarship advantages Vanderbilt has, and basically, here's the deal. We can fight and kind of, form a union of sorts, and we can fight against it and we can beat it, or we can keep complaining about it. I think Vanderbilt's pretty vulnerable this year. They're playing some young kids. Kind of reminds me a little bit of 2018 a bit. They got some young guys that are dudes. They got some 20-year-old freshmen too. But I think, when we begin to look at this thing, this year, that's what makes it so difficult is that we got the benefit of playing the bottom half of the SEC East just like Vandy got to do every year, and we didn't take full advantage of it. We got nobody to blame but ourselves. And I began to look around this and say, you know what? We're the place of Clark and Palmero and Thigpen and Brantley and Paul Mahalam, and B.J. Wallace, Adam Frazier, Hunter Renfro. We can run all the way down the list. But I want to be more than that. I don't just want to be the place where some great Major League Baseball players came and played. Listen, I'm proud of our heritage. I'm proud of our baseball legacy. But I want it to be grander than it is today. I don't want to just be, hey, we're talking about the glory years, and you say, you know what? Man, that 85 team was great. Yeah, it was. It was great. And you know what, guys? That's forever ago now. That is over. It is completely over. And there are some of us, and you're going to say, well, Steve, you're preaching here. And maybe I am. And maybe we'll pass an offering plate at the end, and we'll take that money and we'll go donate it to the, to Duty Noble Field or whatever. And we'll just hum just as I am. And maybe we'll lead some people to the light. Guys, it's over. The 80s are over. Not to mention, we played a lot of baseball before 1985. We were really good then, too. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't honor that legacy. We should. But many of us are content to kind of hang our hat on that. I want more than that. I want us to be able to say, I want us to be able to play that national championship game and that ESPN camera pan through the crowd. Next thing you know, you got Clark and Palmero out there in the stands high-fiving each other because they're so glad that their school finally did it. That's the memory I want. I get chills thinking about it right now. That's what I want to see. I want to see Raphael and Lynn Palmero crying in the crowd as we win a national championship. That's what I want. And I know it's what you want. I know it's what John Cohen wants. I know it's what Dr. Mark Keenum wants. And that's what makes this past weekend so ugly for us. It's just like after the Arkansas series, and this is worse. Okay, this is worse. Arkansas is the number one team in the country. It's a good measuring stick for us early, but too, it's one of those things too. You look at it and say, you know what? That's a veteran team. They came down here. They were prepared. We were a little bit shell-shocked, and they whipped us. We didn't have a lot of SEC experience under our belt from a pitching standpoint. It showed. We go to Vanderbilt. Should have taken 2 out of 3, and after what Ole Miss did to them this weekend, we kind of look at it and say, you know what? We let those guys off the hook. We did. And credit Ole Miss for doing what they needed to do. But we go up there, and even though we lost 2 out of 3, we're thinking, you know what? We're improving. Hey, we've come a long way since Arkansas. Maybe this is the year. We went up there and did what we had to do. We didn't do what we wanted to do, but we did what we had to do. We got one. Stayed in the race to set up a month of May that we thought would be very beneficial to us. And then we get into this series against Missouri, the last place team in the SEC. And they look like the team that's surging toward Omaha. And we look like a team that's struggling to make it to Hoover. And that's difficult to take. It is very difficult to take. Because this time last week we were talking about, you know what, it's all setting up perfect for us. It's all setting up perfect. Arkansas has only swept one series. They keep losing the game every weekend. If we get them to lose the game this weekend and we sweep, we're even with the weekend to go. We're thinking, you know what, man, if Ole Miss can take one from Vanderbilt, we're in good shape. And if somehow Ole Miss can win that series, we're good to go. Because we knew if Arkansas and Tennessee played and Arkansas took 2 out of 3, then that would put us a game ahead of Tennessee. And then we would control our own destiny. We'd just need a little help from Florida. Well, all that's over with now. There is no longer any discussion about an SEC regular season championship overall, outright, or shared, because we are the team that has fallen out of the race. And we have no one to blame but ourselves. And that's the misery of the whole deal. It'd be one thing if we'd had to play, Ole Miss or Arkansas or, in a certain respect, LSU, even though LSU's bad this year. LSU's kind of been our daddy over the years. If we had lost a series like that, you could almost say, you know what, I kind of get it. But not this one. Not the way we lost to Missouri. And so when I think about Mississippi State baseball, I think, you know what, we're not the team that loses a series to the last place team. Now, I'm going to be fair with you about something else too, okay? I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your skirt. But this is the Southeastern Conference. You can't take anybody for granted on any day in this league. You can't assume a victory against anybody. You can't assume a series weekend win against anybody. You show up unprepared to play like we did this weekend, which is absolutely mind-boggling to me, considering all the things we had up for grabs and at stake, everything that was in front of us. And we go out there and get bullied in our home stadium, in that grand cathedral that we all share ownership in. We got our butts whipped. We were lucky to win a game. You can say, well, Steve, you're being a little bit hard on the team. No, I'm not. We had to come from behind on Thursday and had to have some help from them. You know, that big seventh inning we had, if you recall, you know, they walked a couple of guys. We had an infield hit here. We had a defensive miscue there. Next thing you know, we win the game. Now, I can also argue, too, that we kind of let them hang around a little bit ourselves. And maybe it's time we get into the weekend. But I know that I speak for all of you because we're all shareholders in the same enterprise, right? And that's Mississippi State baseball. Those are the ties that bind. I mean, the chance of all of us getting together and agreeing on politics or religion or life or anything else, chances of that happening are really, really slim. But this is a united force right now for Mississippi State baseball. And I'm gonna, before I get into covering the weekend, I'm going to tell you guys something else too. And you can say, Steve, you're wrong. I reserve the right to say whatever I want to say. And you know what? You're absolutely right. You can say whatever you want to say, and so can I. But for you guys to go out there and attack our players on social media, if you're one of those people, please unfollow me on social media. Don't ever subscribe to our website. Don't ever listen to my show. I'm ashamed of you. I'm absolutely ashamed of you. Well, you know, Steve, I was just upset about the game. You know what? I hope we can design an app and download it to everybody's phone that, A, we don't tweet or post during a ball game, and then it precludes us from tweeting at players after a ball game. I don't care how mad you are. I don't care how disappointed you are. That is across the line. And I'm ashamed of you. If you did it, I'm ashamed of you. And if I find that you did it, I'm going to block you on Twitter. And that may not mean anything to you, but I don't want to be around you. I don't want to have any association or affiliation with you if you're that kind of person. I just don't. How does that get us closer to our goal? I just would love for somebody to explain that to me. Well, I'm going to hold them accountable. It's not your place to hold them accountable. Who are you? Well, you know, Steve, I've been a State fan my whole life. Okay, so that doesn't give you the license to go tweet at one of our kids that feels worse than you could possibly imagine about this past weekend. Do you think that makes them feel any better? Do you think that inspires them to go play better this weekend against Alabama? You know what it does? It makes Mississippi State look bad. We talk about we got the greatest fans in the country until we lose. Until we lose. Then we turn on our own. We do the Ole Miss thing. It's ridiculous, man. It's absolutely ridiculous. And if that hurts your feelings, I don't care. You're wrong. You are absolutely wrong. There is no way you're right in that situation. And I've seen some of that. It's absolutely ridiculous. You know what? You want to get on there and you want to get upset with Chris Lemonis and Scott Foxhall, that's one thing. I don't think you should tweet at them either. But you know what? If you want to vent your frustrations at a grown man, then so be it. But to go attack one of our players? Multiple players? Big man, I tell you. Awfully tough behind that keyboard, aren't you? Keyboard cowboy. I'm going to tell them how I feel. You know what? How you feel doesn't mean anything. It's just like peeing down your leg. You're the only one that feels it. But let's go out here and spread our cancer. Let's go out here, hey, this kid booted a ball, so I'm going to go tweet at him. This kid struck out swinging in a big situation, so let me go post on Facebook and tag his parents. Right? You say, Steve, you're getting overboard. No, I'm not. I'm just getting warmed up. That's one of those things that irritates me to no end. And I know there are going to be some say, I'm so tired of Steve being so preachy. Well, turn the show off. Turn it off. Block me. I don't care. Because here's the deal. I'm true maroon. 100%. Now, I'm not some Pollyanna either. I'll call a spade a shovel. If I don't think that something's right, I'll tell you. And you know what? We didn't bring a good effort this weekend. We got our butts whipped, and it's our fault. I give Missouri credit for coming up here bringing the game. They're not good enough to beat us without our help. And we gave it away, man. We did. We showed up, and your two biggest leaders on the team, Tanner Allen and Rowdy Jordan, admitted as such. We thought we could show up and just roll over them. That's exactly what Rowdy Jordan said. TA made the comment on Friday night. He says, you know what? We thought we could just show up at home and the crowd would beat them. So there is blame to go around. But that doesn't give you license or permission to go tweet at one of these young men and say, you know, you're trash or you're a waste of a scholarship or whatever, or you should transfer. That behavior is beneath Mississippi State Bulldogs. That's not who we are. And if that's who you thought we were, you need to go find somebody else to cheer for. That's not who we are. I get fired up. I got a strong opinion about this, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. And maybe it's because I'm a father. And maybe it's because my children have been harassed on social media by Ole Miss people trying to get at me. You may recall there was a situation where somebody in my family had to file a lawsuit against somebody. And you know what? I may be getting ready to file some more. How about that? Not against you guys, but you know, I'm just one of those kind of people. Maybe I can't take it. But I also am the father of a former college baseball player. And here's the thing that I know. I coached him in high school. I was a hitting coach in high school before I had all this hair, right? And you know what he did? So he was a 4-year starter. He was a 3-year first-team All-District. He was a 2-year All-Metro player. And as a senior, he was All-State in the state of Louisiana in a baseball crazy town like Baton Rouge. And you know what he did? At times he made errors. At times he hung a breaking ball. At times his emotions got the better of him. At times he didn't practice as much as he should have or as hard as he should have. He didn't spend as much time in the cage. And sometimes he swung and missed at pitches that he shouldn't have. But you know what? I loved him just the same. But I also told him the truth because it was my role to do it. Because I was his coach and his father. And you know what? You wanted to get me fired up? Let me go find something on social media. Even in the infancy of social media. And you know what I would do, guys? I'd have some of my players that would bring stuff that other rival schools would say about our kids, and I would read it to our players. I would. And not for the reasons that you think. But I wanted them to know that I had their back. I didn't go tweet at teenagers. I said, you know what? This is trash. And the person that sent this is trash. But we're going to be better than this because we're not going to respond with more trash. We're not going to do it. But you know what? To this day, the greatest days of my life were watching my kid play high school baseball, following him around the country, watching him play college baseball. And there is nothing anybody could ever do to rob that joy from me. But I'll tell you this, he didn't play on this big a stage, so we didn't have to deal with it the way that some of these people do. But I can tell you, I talk to these parents because, you know, the road baseball thing, sometimes I get out there and like there's only a handful of maroon people there, and they're your baseball parents wearing your M over S, representing you and your school and your program and the team that you claim to love. And those are the people you're trashing. Man, get out of here with that. You're wrong. There ain't no way you can be right about it. And so we get out here on Facebook, and I love it. And one day, I'm just, you know, I'm one bad day away from just losing it in some of these Facebook groups. Oh my gosh, I'm so close. Because I'll notice some of these people, they will get in the Facebook groups, and then they will trash these kids, and then go to their parents' Facebook walls, who they have. The only reason they've friend requested them is because they're baseball parents. And then they go over there and they have some little kind word to say. What a hypocrite. I'm going to go trash the kids, and then I'm going to go make nice with their parents. So when I see them at the ball games, I can smile and hug their neck and say, oh, it's all going to be okay. You're the problem. You were the problem. That's what you don't understand. It's just, I mean, bad people do those sorts of things. They do. Be consistent what you do. If you're going to trash
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive. Are you thinking more about how to tighten up your budget these days? Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save over $700 on average, and customers can qualify for an average of 6 discounts when they sign up. A little off your rate each month goes a long way. Get a quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed in 2020. Potential savings will vary. Discounts vary and are not available in all states and situations.
Ask their kid behind their back, do it to their face. It's ridiculous. All right, so let's run it down real quick here. It's going to be a longer show, but I'm not going to belabor the point about this series. I don't want to talk about it any more than you guys do. But we get out there, and I thought Christian, gave us a fighting chance early on. We made some mistakes behind them, but we get out there in the first inning, and it's 2 quick outs, 3 pitches. We give up a single. And then we commit an error. So now all of a sudden my pitcher's got to get an extra out. Then we have a wild pitch, and then we finally get out. It was a crazy inning. You recall, bases loaded, because we made an error, and then this kind of bit of a freak show ball that Logan couldn't pick up. We thought it was going to be a foul ball, but we get out of it with a long at bat when we get the strikeout. So I give Christian some credit for kind of fighting through some adversity there. Now, of course, he's the one that gets blamed, when the shortstop makes an error and when a freaky play happens, he gets blamed on all that. We get out and get a couple runs there in the first inning. Really a good job kind of getting started. Rowdy gets a single, TA gets a double, and we're thinking, we're fixing to blow this game open early. We had a chance to. Runners in second, third. Cam James hits a ground ball to the right side, drives in a run. Luke Hancock singles, and it's a 10th ball game. So we're off and running. We feel pretty good about that. We get right back into second. We get a quick ground out. And then we walk a guy, and we have the stolen base. We throw the ball on the outfield, and all of a sudden he goes to third. So we made an error there. So we put a guy on third. There's a single to the left. The run scores unearned. And then we throw the next guy out, stealing, and we get a fly out. We get out of it. But you know what? There's a run aided by an error. If it's a single to left and a runner at second, chances are he's not going to score. Okay, so bottom of second, we don't do anything. We get to the top of third here, and they tie the ball game up. And this is where I thought Christian began to elevate a little bit. We give up a single. Then you get a fly out. They tag and go. And then they pop up the bunt. And so we've already got 2 outs in the inning here. It's just a matter of us getting out of here. And this is when they run the UAAA baseball play. And they send the runner to second, and we throw the ball away. And then they steal home. So it makes it a 3-2 ball game. And then we walk a guy, and we give up a single, and now it's a 3-2 ball game. Then, again, we get 2 outs in the inning, and we make an error to extend the inning, and then McLeod has to pitch to 3 more hitters. Bottom of third, we didn't do anything. Top of 4, we bring in Brandon Smith, who has been really good as of late. I know we took the loss to South Carolina, but, he shouldn't have been in that situation in the first place. We should have already won the ball game. So he gets a 1-2-3 inning. They're in the top of 4. We go 1-2-3 in the bottom of 4, top of 5. They do get a run on us. We give up a double to left, and then there's a ground out, the center runner around. There's a single at the middle, and it's really the only clean run they score. They do score another one a little bit later on the wild pitch. Excuse me, I'm wrong there. They just get the 1 run that inning. Excuse me, I'm getting off my game here. Bottom of 5, we get a walk, and then we're out. We get a foul out from Braylon Skinner. We get a walk. We get fly out. Top of 6, we bring in Preston Johnson, who I think, if you're asking me, I think we move him from the setup role to closing out game 2. It's just my honest opinion. We got to have somebody that can close on the games that Landon Sims can. And so he comes in and is absolutely outstanding. 3 Ks, absolutely phenomenal effort for him. Comes back. We don't score in the 6th, but we come back in the 7th, and Preston Johnson, outstanding again, does have the 1 4-pitch walk, but strikes out the side. In 2 innings of work, he really looked good. Now, I'm really excited about his potential long term. I think he's going to be a big-time player for us. He's already establishing himself as a good bullpen arm for us. Bottom of 7 is when State makes the run here. So we open up with a 4-pitch walk to Skinner, Rowdy K's, and then TA flies out. So you got a runner at first with 2 down. Ordinarily, that'd be trouble for us, but that's one of the things that I think sometimes we begin to kind of feel like unless Rowdy and TA are involved, we can't score. That's not really the case. It's one of those truisms. It's not true. So Cam James singles, and then Skinner goes to second. They throw the ball away, and now we got runners on the corners, and then there's a wild pitch that sends Cam up. So now you got 2 men on in scoring position with 2 outs. Luke Hancock works the walk. Luke's still the most difficult guy in the Bulldog lineup to strike out. So now the bases are loaded. We just need the big hit. And, Skinner's already scored on the wild pitch. I skipped that line, made it a 4-3 ball game. And so then Logan Tanner walks, bases are loaded, and then Scotty DeBrule, who has been electric for us down the stretch here, drives in the run there. And see, here's the thing, too, about that scenario that I think is rather interesting. See, I think this is where the Missouri pitcher made a mistake. With 2 outs on a 2-2 count, I'm not going to throw my breaking ball in the dirt. That's my action pitch, okay? And what I mean by that is I'm going to pitch to contact there. I'm going to throw my best swing and miss pitch in the strike zone. I'm not going to bury the breaking ball there, especially with the bases loaded. I've already had a wild pitch, allowed a run to score. So, and here's the reason why. Because on 2-2, the runners aren't going. And so if I get a routine ground ball somewhere, I'm going to be able to force a runner at any base. If I wait until it's a full count and everybody's going, really, and more times than not, I got one play and that's the first base. That's exactly what happens here. Because the runners are going, you get that ball back up the middle and the guy has to range to his right and then throw left, you have no shot. On 2-2, he's going to take that and flip it to second, and you're going to force the runner at second. Hindsight's always 20/20, but in that situation, the action pitch should be on 2-2, not on 3-2. And I thought he made a big mistake there and ultimately cost him the ball game. State takes the lead there and makes it 5-4. Top of 8, we bring in Landon Sims, and at this point, ball game's over. Strikeout swinging. We don't do anything in the 8th, and then we get out of it 1-2-3 there in the 9th. And so we win the ball game, but again, we're kind of fortunate because of the fact that they helped us a little bit. But if we're being fair, we helped them a lot too. They scored the one clean run in the ball game. Every other one was aided by our own ineptitude. We made some mistakes at time in extended innings and forced our starting pitcher to go deeper in counts and to go deeper in innings. And so when you begin to look at this thing and you can say, man, Steve Christian McLeod didn't have a quality start again. Well, we had some self-inflicted wounds that added to his adversity. And so those are the things you begin to think about. It's like, yeah, we needed a longer start, which we do, but we've got to play cleaner behind him. Christian goes 3 innings. And so here's the thing that I began to think about. If we make a couple plays early in the ball game, maybe that turns into 4 or 5 innings, and that's one less inning the bullpen's got to throw. And so I can save that and let somebody else use that appearance a little bit later in the weekend. All right, so let's go to game number 2 here. And this is one, we absolutely gave this one away too. We did. Absolutely gave this one away. I don't think anybody would disagree. So, again, we'll go quick to this one. Stone Simmons gets a loss on this one, and I think Stone probably deserved a little bit better. I think Stone's going to be a good arm for us. Okay, so nothing doing for them in the first, but I didn't think Bednar had his best stuff, but I thought he kind of grinded through here for us and did a good job. So we get the K-look in a line out, we walk a guy, we get up a single, and then we battle right back and get a strikeout. So, again, there's some traffic on the base paths, but we're kind of able to fight through it. We get a walk to open the ball game, and then we go single, and then we get a double play, and then we get a ground out. So, again, Rowdy and TA kind of getting us started off, and then we're not able to kind of push them across. We get, instead of them getting double and triple, we get the walk and the single. We hit into the ground, the double play there. Top of second, we get in a little trouble here. So we get day singles. Man flies out, so we got 1, and then Wilsmeyer strikes out, so there's 2 outs in the inning. We're a pitch away from getting back in the dugout. Then hold doubles to right. They hold the runner at third. Now there's runners to second and third. And then there's a single to right, and then there's a balk, and then we finally get out of it. And so this is a situation really where Bednar, got behind the guy and got a little predictable in the count, give up a couple of hits. But, we had a chance to get out of this thing with no trouble. Veerling, I thought, was outstanding for them. That's their second baseman and leadoff hitter. He's in a 1-2 count there, and he finds a way to to push that ball to right field and drive a couple runs in. So we're chasing the game already. Bottom of second, we go 1-2-3. That's Logan Tanner, Scott DeBrule, and Brad Cumbest. Top of three, we get a case swinging, give up a single, and then we force the runner, a walk, and then we get out of it. Bottom third, this is when State kind of makes a move here. And this is when I felt like after this inning, I thought, you know what, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Bednar's starting to settle in. We kind of figured some things out pitching. So we reach on an error. Kellum Clark, who I think is going to bring a different dynamic to the lineup from the left-handed side. I think he's a really talented left-handed power hitter. And I think that he is going to be a star for us in years to come. So I'm glad that he's healthy. I'm glad that he's had some ABs. I'm glad he's contributing. But he reaches on an error here, and then Forsythe strikes out looking. I'm not going to just beat Lane Forsythe up, but we take way too many called third strikes, way too many. Rowdy walks, and then he goes on a wild pitch. And so we got runners at second and third with just the one out. And then T.A. triples down the right field line, drives him in. The game is tied. Cam James walks, still second. Hancock then grounds out, drives in the run. Ground ball to the right side. And then Logan Tanner singles, drives in another one. It's a 4-2 ball game, and I really felt at this point we would take over. I thought, okay, we're good to go. Let's knock this thing out. We give up the bunt single and then the steal, but we, again, bear down, strike out, ground out. We're out of the inning and on to the bottom of four. We begin to kind of nurse the lead a little bit, begin to kind of tack on some. And again, you go through this thing, Cumbest opens up with a double on a full count. That's great for Cumbest. Goes third on the pass ball, and you're thinking, okay, we just need a fly ball here. We get a fly ball, but it's a short right, not deep enough. But we make a little bit of a mistake here, and we're running on contact here, and I'm sure it's a called play ahead of time. And to give the guy credit, the pitcher for Mizzou, Forsythe taps it back to the mound. He grabs it barehanded and throws on, and Cumbest is out pretty substantially. And again, it's easy to beat up Cheeseborough on that too, but more times than not, that's what you're thinking. We're going on contact. Ground ball, we're going on contact. You got to see it through a little bit, but here's the thing. If you wait till the shortstop's got it, you're pegged at the plate. It's just one of those timing things. It didn't work out for us, and how big would that have run been for us later? Because then Rowdy doubles and drives in lane. It would have driven in both runs and make it a 6-4 ball game. Instead, it's a 5-4 ball game. Lamonis mentioned that, not that play specifically, but said, you know what? We should have been up 6-2. We should have been up 6-2 in the fifth. And then Bednar has a good inning here. We get a strikeout, give up a single, a fly out, a ground out. So we're pitching around the one-hit hit there, the one-hit single, one-out single. Bottom five, we don't do anything. We had a little bit of a 2-out rally there. We get a walk to Logan Tanner, then DeBrule singles, and then Cumbest pops up. There was a lot of pop-ups too. They did a really good job of getting us out on our front foot. But some of this too, and this is not indicative necessarily of Brad, I thought we had a lot of selfish swings as a team, especially on Saturday. And what I mean by that is we got a lot of guys looking to hit jacks instead of just going up there and trying to find a way on base and just kind of move the order along. And I think that's one of the things Lamonis has to address. Top of six, you bring in Cam Tuller, and just really didn't have a good outing. He has been good as of late, was good at South Carolina. Gives it the bunt single, then there's a hit by pitch. We get a strikeout because they gave it to us. They tried to bunt with 2 strikes. We bring in Stinnett here, and I question this decision, and I don't question very many, but there are a couple that I kind of question, and this is one of them. I think Parker Stinnett is one of those guys that's better with a clean sheet. I think he's a guy that almost needs to face a hitter or two before he's really ready to go. And so we bring him in, and there's already traffic on the bases, and so he walks the first guy to load the bases. And then we have a wild pitch, gives them a run. We get a ground out, another run scores. Now it's a 5-5 ball game. And then we give up an infield hit, and another run scores. And so all of this happened. Cam didn't have a good start. Cam Tuller didn't have a good start to the inning. And then we bring in Stinnett, and he kind of compounded the misery there. So this is where I thought we were in trouble. But we weren't. We come right back. I mentioned Kellum Clark earlier. The very first pitch he sees in the sixth knocks Halverson out of the ball game. It is a long fly ball to right field that makes it a 6-6 ball game. You're thinking, okay, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. They bring in Connor Ash, a former starter of theirs, and he gets out of it. We get a couple of runners on with 2 outs. TA gets a single, and then Cam James walks. And again, it seems like I mention this a lot, but to hear social media talk, you would think Cam James contributes nothing. People forget sometimes he's a freshman, but here he is again trying to keep a 2-out rally alive. And then Luke Hancock strikes out looking on what I thought was a bad call. Be that as it may, probably too close to take, right? And so chance there to, again, take the lead. We don't. We get into the 7th, and we do a pretty good job here. We do have the walk, but, we get 2 Ks to get out of it. It's a ground out and, a couple of punch outs there. But, Stinnett, again, you give him a clean inning, and he does a pretty good job for you. Again, there's going to be a guy get on base with him usually. He's just one of those kind of guys that sometimes control is elusive. Bottom of 7, we go 1, 2, 3. We get to the 8th. We bring in Stone Simmons, gives up a single, a fly out. We get a double play, and we're out of the inning. And we're thinking, okay, bottom of 8, let's go score a run or 2 here and get out of here with the win. And let Lennon Sims close it out in the 9th, right? Well, Clark pops out, Forsythe gets a single, and then Rowdy's hit by the pitch. You're thinking, okay, we got 2 men on here with less than 2 outs. We're going to get a run home. We don't. TA grounds out, and then Cam James strikes out swinging after, I think, a 9-pitch at bat. They finally get him on a change. They couldn't finish him with a fastball and finally get him on a change. He had fouled off one earlier in the at-bat. So it's 6-6 going to the 9th. And Stone Simmons, again, he's been really good for us. But for some reason, he was elevating pitches this inning. You get the single to left, single to right, and then all of a sudden we're in trouble. They get the sack bunt down, and it was just really a matter of whether they're going to score 1 or 2. And then there's a ground ball. We pull the infield in. There's a ground ball. We don't field it. It goes off the heel of a glove. The run scores, and then we have a chance in the 9th to think, okay, let's go make something happen and maybe send this thing to the 10th. And we've got the heart of the order up. And you got what, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6 up there, and we go meekly and quietly there. And I think at that point everybody said, "Listen, we didn't play well. We still should have won the ball game. We got to come back on game 3 and bounce back." We didn't. We absolutely didn't. And these are the things that stay with you. It's like I'm with all of you. I was thinking, okay, here's the deal. We'll figure this thing out. We'll rally the troops. We won Thursday. We didn't play well, but we found a way to win. We didn't play well Friday, and we still should have found a way to win. We didn't. I'm not going to talk a lot about this game 3 because it makes me sick to my stomach. But one of the things that I want to say is one of the things that we talked about on this show. I know some of you guys think I don't know baseball, and that's okay. You can be wrong if you want to. I shared with you guys before the way that this thing works, what Houston Harding is he is better out of the bullpen on an SEC weekend. He's been good midweek, but he does not have a plus fastball against SEC hitters. And so he needs the benefit of coming out of the pen. It's like we talked about. You let Presto start, get you through the order once, maybe twice if he can. And then, they're going to put some left-handers in the lineup, and you bring Hootie in, and he chews those left-handers up. Well, we put Hootie as a starter, and so what did Mizzou do? Mizzou stacks 9 right-handed hitters against him. 9. And let's just kind of run through a couple of these things here. I'm not going to beat the kid up because I think Hootie is outstanding. He is a really fun guy. But, we get to this thing, and the guy's a complete competitor. But we get to this deal here, you give up a single and you get a fly out, and then you get a ground ball back to the pitcher just tailor-made, for a 1-6-3, and then we boot it and ultimately give up 2 runs. And the thing that you look at, too, is, we're not missing many bats here. You get a ground out, give up a single, and then you get a foul out. And so we get to the 2nd, and you're thinking, okay, we've survived that, we'll be okay. Well, we give up runs that inning, too. You get into the 2nd here, and those are the things that I just it drives me crazy sometimes to look at this stuff, and it looks like the stupid thing's not going to work for me. But we give up a run in the second, and then we give up 5 in the third. And so Harding takes the loss. He had been 5-1 on the year. But it's just one of those things where I think the formula was okay. If you look at how good he has been out of the bullpen in relief, you can kind of see why. And I think a lot of that, too, is, you just can't give them the option to know what's coming. Those are the things that stick with me. Those are the things that I finally got to work here. So we get to the second, right? We give a ground out, a home run. We get a K-look and give up a single, a hit by pitch, and a ground out. So, again, these guys are putting the ball in play. They are consistently putting the ball in play because, again, you've got a guy that doesn't have a plus fastball throwing to a lineup full of right-handers. You get to the third, double, fielder's choice, RBI single. We walk a guy, another fielder's choice, and then we give up the home run. I mean, a grand slam there. And, at this point, you begin to you work through all this stuff, and you kind of realize, we got some trouble. And so I say all that to say this, is that either let's blow up the weekend rotation completely, which I don't think we should. I think sometimes our starting pitching is a little bit unfairly maligned because of how bad we've been defensively at times. And you know what? Maybe we go back to letting Cam James be the DH. Maybe that's the way to go. I think Cam is one of those guys now that's probably thinking a little bit too much. I think Tanner Leggett is really good at third base. I think, again, he's not going to make the spectacular play, but he is going to make the routine play, and more times than not going to make the really good play. But if that's what we got to do, that's what we got to do. And Tanner Leggett had a big hit for us on Saturday as well. And so I say all that to say this, is like, baseball is a year-long learning process. You don't just pick your best 9 in spring camp and say, okay, this is our group and let's go with it. You have to adjust over the course of the year. You have injuries. You have guys that go in slumps. You have guys that go in funks. And, I look at what Scotty DeBrule did, and granted, Scotty is a graduate, okay? We had the issue with the pop-up, right? And ever since he sat for a couple ball games, and I think part of that, too, is we had Tanner Leggett playing second, who was outstanding at the time. And I think it made it that much more difficult for Chris to put DeBrule back in lineup, but DeBrule's a better offensive player. And so I think Scotty realizes, I got him a chance here, and so I'm not going to give it up again. And so I think he learns from it. As a veteran guy, he goes, I didn't transfer to Mississippi State to just sit here. And so he got better. He got better because of the move. You know what? Things weren't working out with Josh Hatcher at first, and I hate it because Josh is such a good guy. I mean, he really is. But you know what? We start working Luke Hancock in some in practice. We let him take some in and out in pregame. Next thing you know, he's our first baseman. Has he had a couple of issues? Yes, he has, but you got a catcher playing first. He also dug a ball out of the dirt on Saturday that probably he wouldn't have been able to do a month ago. But you know what? We got to go with the cleanest lineup we can get defensively. And maybe that means Kellum Clark's got playing left. But I think you need his bat in the lineup, especially when you're facing right-handers. And that's the thing too is Brad has had stretches at times, been really good. Browan Skinner's had some stretches at times, he's been good. And maybe it's a matchup deal, maybe it's week to week, whatever it is. But I think we've got to settle the infield. I think that's got to happen. I think we got to settle the infield. And listen, Lane Forsythe is a great defender. And he has made some mistakes in recent weeks. And you know what? This is a kid, too, that's playing at an incredibly high level in a very pressure-packed situation. I'm not ready to go up on that kid by any stretch of the imagination. Does it make me mad sometimes? Yeah, it does. Not mad enough to go tweeting, though, Mr. Fan. But I think Lane Forsythe's going to be fine. He's playing before he was expected to. And so you got to expect with a young player out there's going to be some up and down. And there's been some down, but there's also been some plays he's made that I don't know that anybody else could have made. Does he pat the ball sometimes a little too much? Yeah, probably so. But it's just like South Carolina. We dropped the ball at first. Luke muffs it, and nobody felt worse about it than Luke did. Well, then the next throw from Lane, if we're thinking, okay, this one's got to be absolutely perfect. And so then we airmail the throw. We're figuring some things out late. And to be honest with you, some of this defensive stuff has cost us an SEC championship. We are not playing SEC championship defense, and as a result, we're not going to win the SEC championship. And listen, this team has some warts. There are no perfect teams. But as inconsistent as starting pitching has been, some of that has been associated with the fact that I think some of these guys feel like they got to strike a lot of guys out. I think they feel like, you know what, I got to finish these hitters rather than just letting the defense work for me because, hey, listen, I go out here and I get 2 outs and I roll up a ground ball and next thing you know, I got to face another hitter. It's difficult to stay engaged all the times, emotionally. That's how it all works. But listen, this was a dreadful weekend, and it will cost us the SEC championship. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And from the beginning of this season, I've talked about I thought that we had a chance to win this thing. We absolutely did, and we blew it. There's no other way to feel good about it. We blew it. All right, let's get in the top 10 list. Talk about something else. Top 10 list brought to you by JohnnyPacker.com. I met with John on Saturday, I guess it was, after the ball game, and I had a chance to visit with him for a little while. Doing good, man. John's doing great. CF is kind of abated for now. You know, it's something he's going to have to live with forever, but lung function is improving. And he's a guy, too, that, you know, here a couple years ago, we didn't know he'd be around anymore. And so JohnnyPacker.com, that's your home for sunglasses. And you guys have been buying sunglasses, and there's a couple things they wanted me to share with you guys, is that, let's say, for an example, if you go to the website and it shows that certain sunglasses are sold out, that means that the in-house inventory is sold out. But it's just a matter of a couple of days for them to get you some more. So let's say, for an example, if you pull up and you want the Greenwood frames and it's sold out, I can't get it. You just click on that Contact Us link and say, hey, John, I really want to get those Greenwood glasses, and they'll get you taken care of. Simple as that. Because you guys have been buying glasses. And so sometimes they're not able to keep up with the inventory. And so, again, if you go on there and you see the glasses you really want, don't settle for and say, well, you know, I'll just get these. No, get the ones you really want. So hit that Contact Us link there, email them, and just tell them exactly what you want, and they can get it for you in a matter of a few days. Simple as that. And again, use promo code Boneyard to get 10% off your purchase. So that's travel and information you need to know. Go to the website, JohnnyPacker.com. Use promo code Boneyard, save 10%. But again, if you see the glasses you want and they show sold out, they can still get them for you. Okay? Simple as that. And so he wanted to make sure you guys knew that, because there are some people who are saying, hey, I wanted these, but doesn't matter. They can still get them for you. All right, top 10 list, Eric Clapton. And I can't remember who sent me this. I have so many of you guys. I need to keep a better list. I send Roy the names. I need to do a better job of sending him your names. But many of you don't want credit. You just want the list. So we're doing Eric Clapton today. Now, I got a little bit of cream here, but it's mostly the Eric Clapton solo stuff. I do have a Yardbirds track and the honorable mentions. But when I began to put this list together, man, I was really proud of the list. But as extensive as his catalog is, I know some of you are not going to hear your favorite songs. You're going to say, Steve, how did you miss this? Well, number one, I'm younger than most of you that are big Eric Clapton fans. And so please don't judge me too harshly. But these are my favorite Eric Clapton songs. And I think everybody has a favorite Eric Clapton song. And it's such a diverse catalog, but it's also true to the blues, man. And that's one of the things that I love about it. It's just, it's good driving music, but it's good anytime in music. So here are our honorable mentions. Pretending is one. I Shot the Sheriff, that's a cover song of Bob Marley's, which is why it's in a reggae beat, but he does a great job of it. For Your Love is from the Yardbirds, and what's ironic is that Clapton left the Yardbirds the same day this song was released as a single. Change the World with Babyface, that was a great one. That was a huge hit for them. After Midnight, that goes back to 1970. I know some people are going to say, Steve, how could you leave that off top 10? It was number 11. And then My Father's Eyes, a nice track from some of the later albums. So here we go. And listen, I go back. Man, there's so many of these. I've juggled with the order a little bit on the back half, but the top five, I think, are just ironclad. So here we go, number 10. From the Color of Money soundtrack. That's the Tom Cruise, Paul Newman movie about being pool sharks. It's in the way that you use it. Great video, too. Go check it out. Number 9, I've Got a Rock and Roll Heart. That goes back to my childhood, man. I remember hearing that song on the radio, man. The stereo in the living room. You wake up in the morning, mama's cleaning the house. Number 8, another one that goes back, man. And I love the guitar on this one, but it's I Can't Stand It. Number 7, and when I was a kid, what I liked most about it was the backing vocals on the chorus. But it's Lay Down Sally and Rest Her in My Arms. Number 6, this is one that means a lot to me, and it's a song called Tears in Heaven, and it's about Eric Clapton's son, Connor. So when I was young in sobriety, I was a big Rolling Stones subscriber, and back when they were about music. But I used to look forward to getting that Rolling Stone issue once a week, and got the episode with Eric Clapton the issue with Eric Clapton. And so he talked about the death of his son, Connor. And he was one of the first people on the scene. And, of course, Connor had fallen out of off a balcony of a high-rise condominium and died. And as you can imagine how horrific that would be. And so Eric Clapton wrote this song about his son, Connor. And I get chills even talking about it now. But they asked him how he coped. And he said, I went to a lot of AA meetings and I called my sponsor a lot. And I thought then, I made a real commitment to myself then, as I read that article, I said, man, if he can stay sober through that, I don't have any excuses. If Eric Clapton can see his poor dead child dead on a sidewalk and then deal with all the guilt of, why didn't we have somebody watching him or whatever? And, of course, they did, because you always blame yourself. And I thought, you know what? The problems in my life are so mundane and mediocre. I don't have anything that compares to this. And God, please let nothing ever happen to my children like this. But I just made a commitment then. I said, you know what? If Eric Clapton can work his program after experiencing the most horrific heartbreak of all time, I don't have any excuses to drink. Number 5, going back to the Cream years, it's The Sunshine of Your Love. Living Color does a great rendition of this one as well. But Sunshine of Your Love from Cream, a great, great track. Number 4, one of the greatest love songs ever written. It's Wonderful Tonight. And it's like you can just hear the guitar singing in your head right now, right? Everybody knows that signature sound of that song. And it's one of those great songs, man. It's about a man's love for his woman. Absolutely love that song. Number 3, and maybe it's because I'm an addict, but it's Cocaine. Love the riff on this one. I love the live version probably more so than the studio version. I'm sure you guys do as well. Number 2, going back to the Cream years, it's White Room. I love the vocal on this one too, but I think this shows kind of the maybe more the alternative rock side of Eric Clapton. Number 1, though, I think most people would probably agree this is number 1. And it's a song that is rumored to be about an extramarital affair that Eric Clapton had, I guess, with George Harrison's wife, I believe is correct. But it's a song, Layla. And it is an absolutely wonderful song, regardless of the content. The music behind this one is phenomenal. So that's your top 10 list. Hope you guys dig it. Thanks so much for the suggestion. I'm surprised we haven't done this one before now. It's like I think to myself, we've done some of these other bands and we've done some of these pop singers, but we hadn't done Slow Hand himself, man. And it's I'm happy to do it. So thanks for the suggestion, and I hope you guys dig the list. And for some of you young bucks out there, if you notice a little bit about Eric Clapton, listen to this list. Roy will have the Spotify link up a little bit later. And take some time through your work day today or your drive home and listen to some of these songs. And then you can go home or text your parents and say, hey, I really dig this Eric Clapton song, and they'll be really proud and wonder how you found this new knowledge of yours. All right, let's look around the league. This segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart. Stan the Man, Miss Kathy Brown, lovely, talented Susie, and I still keep forgetting to go by there to see Stan. I need to go by there and see him, and I'm sure that Susie's already ate my peanuts again. But either way, I need to go by and see them, and I meant to go by there last week because I needed to buy some gear. I hadn't done it yet. But I will do my best to get by there this week. A busy week for us, obviously, with the home games Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. which is a good chance for you to come to town and go by and see those guys yourself. If you can't make it to town, let me encourage you to outfit your family in the latest in maroon and white fashions by going to campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll save you a little cash. Use promo code BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. And that'll get you free shipping on all orders over $50. Any order less than $50, absolutely incomplete. Again, that's campusbookmart.net, promo code BSR. All right, let's look around the league here, and I'll give you a quick rundown, too, of some other teams of note that you need to be mindful of in the 20 regional hosting sites. There will be 16 of the 20 will be selected. We will be one of the 16. So regardless of what you read on Facebook, we're going to be fine. All right, so Tennessee loses 2 out of 3 at home to Arkansas. There was a little bit of a brouhaha after the game. Dave Van Horn, Tony Vitello had some words. That's 2 high-strung alpha dogs there. Not the least bit surprised by that. Vanderbilt loses 2 out of 3 to Ole Miss, and now Vanderbilt now a game out of first place in the win column. Florida takes 2 out of 3 from Georgia. They're now 17-10, tied with Mississippi State. South Carolina sweeps the series from Kentucky, which was absolutely horrendous for Kentucky. South Carolina now 15-12 in the league. Georgia drops 12-15 after their series loss to Florida. They do win the Sunday game, which helps Mississippi State out a little bit. Kentucky now 11-16 in the league, and dare we say it, Missouri now 7-20 after winning a couple in Starkville. Arkansas, of course, 19-8, leading the SEC now by themselves with 1 weekend to play. Of course, they've got a difficult weekend ahead. So I could see a scenario where Tennessee wins a series and Arkansas loses a series and they share the title. I can see it. Mississippi State now 17-10. You wouldn't know it by looking at social media. You would have thought we had to give some wins back. We don't. 17-10 and still a chance to get to 20. Ole Miss still a game behind Mississippi State, 16-11. Even though I think the Rebels really took a big step forward towards hosting, I really thought they would lose that series to Vanderbilt. And to their credit, they had that 10-run second or third inning that really kind of gave them some separation. Vanderbilt did come back a little bit, but Ole Miss just kept tacking on, put the game away. And listen, you tipped your cap to them. Those guys did a good job. Alabama loses a series to LSU. They're now 12-14. The Tigers 11-16, and I told you guys a month ago that LSU was going to stack some wins in May, and then they had a couple of rough weekends. Everybody's like, but Steve, you know what? But here they are stacking wins as we expected. They go to A&M this next weekend. There's going to be a lot at stake for Texas A&M. A&M now 8-19 and tied with Auburn for the last spot in Hoover. Auburn would win the tiebreaker because Auburn won the series head-to-head over the weekend. So that's the standings, and that's kind of how the weekend went. Now, I worked up an article over on genespage.com because I thought, rather than just do an SEC weekend in review, maybe we should take a look at what happened around those 20 sites. And so I won't bore you by running down the SEC schools again, but let me let you guys know, listen, we didn't have a great weekend, obviously, but we were not alone in that respect. There were some other teams out there that had a lot to play for that didn't play very well. That's not to excuse it by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think anybody lost to an opponent as inferior as we did. But so let's run it down. Arizona takes all 3 from Washington, Arizona, and Oregon. Really, really locked into the Pac-12 race there. Charlotte splits 4 games with Rice over the weekend, and that's what Charlotte can't do. They're a team that's kind of right there on the back end. You need to have winning weekends when you're kind of that one of the bubble teams, because Coosa's not going to get 3 host spots. They might get 2. They're not going to get 3. ECU did a great job for themselves, won 3 out of 4 at Cincinnati. Road win, Cincinnati's not great, but ECU does what a winning team should do. Gonzaga swept a 3-game series from Portland State. I mean, let's call the paper there. I don't think Gonzaga ends up being a host site. I don't think they're going to have enough, but they're doing what they're supposed to do. Louisiana Tech lost to LSU in the midweek and then took 3 of 4 from Texas San Antonio. So if you're looking at Conference USA, folks, Louisiana Tech clearly ahead. Not just in RPI, but they're handling business. Notre Dame did not play this weekend. They will be on the road at Virginia Tech to close out the season. Oregon swept Utah over the weekend. They will host Gonzaga in the midweek and then Stanford. So some real RPI opportunities for them. Pittsburgh, another team that right there probably maybe 12, 13 in the pecking order to get a regional. They didn't help themselves at all. They were swept by NC State over the weekend and lost 4 games in a row. And so that doesn't help by any stretch of the imagination. Southern Miss split 4 games, and again, this is what Southern Miss can't do. You can't go out there and split when you're trying to go push in the host and prove you belong. They're probably right there, 17, 18, and then you split, and so you don't pick up any ground on a weekend with some people ahead of you lose. So I think Southern Miss and Charlotte both are going to have a good run in the Coosa tournament. I think Louisiana Tech is definitely a host site. If Coosa is going to get 2, it's going to be either Southern Miss and Charlotte. I would favor Charlotte right now, to be quite honest with you. Stanford loses 2 out of 3 over the weekend to Cal. They're actually going to play again on Monday. That doesn't help Stanford at all. And, of course, they got a big series coming up with Oregon. You want to know somebody that's on the outs list right now? It's TCU. TCU is a team, obviously, it's been ranked right there around Mississippi State most of the year. They lose to Texas last weekend. Then they lose 2 out of 3 to Louisiana Monroe. That's right, Louisiana Monroe. How does that happen? But they lost it. And so they've lost 2 weekends in a row. They're still going to host. But we talk about, we're hurting ourselves for the national seed race. There's some other people around us that have as well. And so I think our RPI holding right there on 7 or 8 will still be fine. We just got to keep winning. We got to get back to winning. Texas didn't play this week, so they're going to hold firm. Texas Tech took 2 out of 3 from Oklahoma over the weekend, and kind of got a laugher this week coming up with Kansas. And so there are some teams around us that are basically in the same boat that we're in from a weekend standpoint, but not in an overall resume standpoint. That's where you got to – people say, well, Steve, are we going to drop out? No, we're not, okay? This is what everybody wants to know. Steve, we're still going to host. Yes, we're still going to host, okay? Yes, we're still going to host. Are we going to be a top 8 national seed? Well, if we go 3-1 this week, yeah, we're going to be a top 8 national seed. That's what you want to hear. I'm telling you the truth. And there are a lot of people out there, but what if we lose? Well, what if we lose? We don't deserve it. If we lose the series to Alabama, we won't deserve a top 8 national seed. That's as blunt as I can say it. Alabama is a middle-of-the-road SEC team, and if we finish the year losing 2 series in a row, we don't deserve to be a top 8. We don't. And so it's not going to be about, somebody should be a good friend to us. No, we got to go win our way in. If we win the series this weekend, we got to take care of Jacksonville State on Tuesday, and then we go win a couple or 3 in Tuscaloosa, we're going to be a top 8 national seed. So we still control that aspect of it. We're not going to win the SEC, but we can still very much be a top 8 national seed. That's what you wanted to know. That's what you needed to hear. So the math still works. I know when something like this unexpected happens, it feels like the sky is falling. And it does. I know exactly how you feel because I feel it too. It sucks, man. It does. It is absolutely horrendous. And then there's this whole aspect too, well, Ole Miss beats Vanderbilt. And listen, let's be honest. Let's run the numbers down right now. Of the teams we're contending with in the SEC, Arkansas is playing better than us. Right? Tennessee playing better than us. Vanderbilt playing better than us. Ole Miss had a good weekend, but they hadn't had a better month than us. We had a bad weekend. They had a good weekend. So all of a sudden we think, oh, my gosh, they're going to pass us for a national seed. Guys, if we do what we're supposed to do, we're going to end the year with a higher RPI, a better overall record, and a better conference record. So we would be chosen over them. And listen, as I talked about earlier in the show, Ole Miss is good. We've been better, but they're good. And so I know we would love for them not to host, but I think with them taking the series from Vanderbilt, with Vanderbilt's RPI being as high as it is, that's going to help Ole Miss tremendously. And they're probably going to go from being maybe a 13-14 type host to maybe moving up to maybe 10 or 11. And so I don't think they'll be a top 8 national seed, and I think they're going to really struggle on the road at Georgia this week. But to be fair to them, I thought they would struggle on Sunday. And I was hoping that they would take the series, but I was also expecting Mississippi State to sweep. And so we needed them to take the series. Well, then it's like, well, if we didn't win, we didn't want them to win either, right? We didn't want them to gain any ground. But they did. We're still a game ahead of them. We do what we got to do. But the bottom line is this, is that, we have to go win baseball games. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It doesn't matter how many friends we have. It doesn't matter what our conference affiliation is. It doesn't matter what we did back in February or March. We got to go win games. And if we don't win them, we don't deserve any of the rest that goes with it. We don't. We don't deserve it. We're not going to get in just because we've got a big stadium. We're not going to get in because everybody likes us. We're not going to get in because we got cool uniforms. We're going to get in and we're going to be a top 8 national seed because we win games. Simple as that. It's not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of math. You win, your record goes up, your RPI goes up, strength schedule goes up, and you get to go. And you get to be a top 8 national seed. It's for no other reason than that. Nobody is going to vote us in because we're popular. We're going to get to be a top 8 national seed because we have taken care of our business. And I believe we've got good enough leadership on this team that we're going to go out and have a good week. I believe that's the case. I know it's easy to lose heart when we get upset and there's an unexpected weekend. And listen, we've avoided that much of the year. Arkansas was dreadful. Missouri was dreadful. Outside of that, things have pretty much gone to script. There were times, we probably should have been able to get a sweep here, maybe should have been able to finish off South Carolina, and those games matter. And I go all the way back to the conversation we had earlier in the year. There are 30 SEC games. None are more valuable than the rest of them. None of them. Not when you're playing for an SEC championship. They all count the same. Now, that doesn't necessarily constitute the same weight in your RPI, but when you're trying to win an SEC championship, the team with the best record after 30 games wins it. And so it's not about just winning the weekend. You got to win every game you can. And you know what? Because you lose that ball game on Sunday against South Carolina, now you're in a situation with a situation that unfolded with Missouri, now you're out of the race. You let Vanderbilt off the hook on Sunday, you're out of the race. You let LSU off the hook on Sunday back in SEC Weekend 1, you're out of the race. We were able to overcome all that. We gave ourselves a little margin for error, and then we gave it all back this past weekend. And that's what happens. When you have an opportunity to win a ball game, you have to win the ball game. It's as simple as that. So this is a mess of our own making. Let's talk a little recruiting before we get out of here. Brought to you by the fine folks at Portico. And I've had some of you reach out to me to get Brooks' number. I hope that you use it. Brooks is a great friend and a great guy, a guy that loves Mississippi State, a guy that loves Starkville. And because of the fact that he does like Starkville as much as he does and is so committed to your community, Brooks is trying to bring some value to Starkville and to Mississippi State. Recently got a new contract on the house. Just have 3 left in phase 1. Just 3. So if you've been thinking about it, saying, Steve, we've been waiting for the kids to get out of school, make a call today. Make a call today. Find out about it. Second phase is going to be starting here in about 6 weeks. It got pushed back a little bit because of the weather. Okay, and there's all these permits and things like that. And listen, like last year, everybody blamed it on COVID, when everything was slow. This year, it's a little different because what happened is building materials have skyrocketed, and so everything is kind of slowing down a little bit. They're forging ahead here, and again, about 6 weeks. Still going to have that great walking trail around there, and it's just 1.1 miles from campus. It's great. You can find the house that fits your needs, whether it be an investment property for you, a secondary home, or your primary residence. You're going to be glad that you chose Portico. Very easy to find. Turn off Highway 82, right on the 12, like going to campus. Very first right. Very first right. And you know that emotion you feel when it's like, oh my gosh, we're almost to campus? Think about how cool it's going to be that your home is that close to campus. And it's close enough for convenience, but far enough away for having a little bit of privacy. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to be like next to Fraternity Row or anything. You're going to be out there, right off of Old West Point Road, on Garrett Road. Easy to find. For more information, reach out to my friend, your friend, everybody's friend, Brooks Bryan, 601-416-8075. Again, that's 601-416-8075. You'll be glad you did. Make Portico your next move. So over the weekend, former Rosa Fort star Badarius Knighton did commit to Auburn. A bit of a disappointment, but not totally unexpected. I give Paul Jones a lot of credit. Paul has kind of been on this while I've been chasing baseball. And early on, Knighton was leaning to Mississippi State. Auburn offered. Everything changed after that. He is primarily a safety, wants to play safety. Don't know if he was going to fulfill that need here at Mississippi State, so he's headed to Auburn. And Auburn has been a burr in the transfer portal saddle for Mississippi State much of this recruiting class for 2021. Absolutely have been. Don't know why, but they have been. So where does that leave us? Well, I tell you what. You've still got some time. You don't have to be in any hurry. Newcomers are going to report in 10 days. I think you spend a little time. You throw some hooks in the water and see what you come up with. And then you can make a decision about your two blue shirts or one of your blue shirts during the summer months. I know many people on our message board are saying, hey, let's just go ahead and get it done. I don't agree with that at all. Because if these young men have already agreed and they understand, hey, I'm going to report with the newcomers and I'm going to sign my documents a little bit later, there's no point in changing plans right now until you have to. Because there may be some late traffic in the portal. And we've offered some new guys in the transfer portal, so we'll see how things progress. I just don't think there's any need to rush that. I know for many of you are thinking, Steve, I'm just ready for this to be over. Your coaches can't operate under that line of thinking. They got to think, okay, we've got 10 more days before newcomers get here, and so let's just see what happens. Let's wait it out. What's 10 more days, right? And so one of the two blue shirts is going to have to wait and sign in fall anyway. Both are agreeable to doing it then, but one of them is going to have to. And so I think you just simply wait this process out for about 10 days or more, and then you make some decisions. Because by the time we get into summer school, I don't think there's going to be a lot of movement once summer school classes begin. You've got until, July 1st to make that decision. And so, maybe you wait till then before you sign somebody. One of your blue shirts, that is. I think it's a really simple thing. I think there is no urgency to do it. I think you just wait. I think one of the things Mississippi State has to avoid, too, is not getting somebody from the JAG Corps. What's a JAG Corps, you say? Well, JAG stands for just another guy. So if we can't get a guy that's going to help us be a better football team this year, then we're just better off signing one of the blue shirts, which gives us another spot in the 2022 class. I think it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, because there's going to be some guys that will emerge late. There's a lot of guys we haven't seen. We'll see them in camp, and we're going to think, man, I've only got a dozen spots to work with right now. I wish I had one more. And that's always the case. And there's always, late in the process, you wish you had another scholarship. You think, man, I've got to work these numbers out. What do we got to do? We're going to drop a guy. We're going to have a guy that doesn't have a good senior year. We're going to have a guy that's not going to qualify. So you got difficult decisions to make. But I think it's one of those deals where you just simply got to be patient with it. You simply have to be patient. There's no point in rushing this process and saying, you know what, let's just consider this thing over and done with. And just move on. Let's just sign the guys and move forward. Now, what's next for 2022? Well, Trent Singleton. I will tell you now, I believe without a doubt that is the next Mississippi State commitment, unless somebody surprises me before he announces later this week. But Trent Singleton is a guy that I really like a lot. Mississippi State was one of his first offers. It's a guy from Raymond, Mississippi that can play multiple positions. I like him as a safety. He has played some at corner. It'll be interesting to see what he looks like after a year in the college weight room. Do they trim him up a little bit? Do they bulk him up a little bit? We'll see. But I think Trent's a good enough athlete. He can kind of do what you need him to do. I think he's a very versatile athlete that could play corner if need be. But he's already pretty thick. It's just one of those things of when you look at him and begin to kind of break him down physically, where does he fit best position-wise? What is his natural position? But a very skilled athlete and a guy that we've been expecting to commit for a long time. But he has kind of dug in his heels and said, listen, I'm going to announce on the anniversary of my grandmother's passing. And that is something that he has really been unwavering on. I respect that completely. I think he is also a guy that has been very high on Mississippi State since State offered. I think his mind's been made up for a long time. And I think this announcement is essentially a formality. But this is a guy that's got a lot of opportunities. He's got a lot of offers, and I think he is more in tune with the chance to represent his home state and wear the maroon and white of Mississippi State. Got a lot of friends heading up there, and I think that he is the guy that's going to help us. I really think Trent Singleton's going to be a player at Mississippi State. I really do. I like his game. I like the fact that he's a guy that plays quarterback in high school, and so I think as a result, his IQ has been somewhat accelerated. I think he understands the game a little bit better than most. But the thing that I like about him in my interactions with him is he is so incredibly grateful. There's a lot of guys out there that have a sense of entitlement. Well, this is what I've always worked for. This is what I always expected. I've never gotten that impression from Trent. He's always been that guy. No matter who offered, he's like, man, this is really great. I'm really excited about this opportunity. And you can read, we've done several stories with him, and every offer means something to him. And I think those are guys you win with. I think those are guys that make your locker room better. I think those are guys that work hard in the offseason. I think those are the guys you win with. And so I'm excited, and I think by the end of the week we'll have him as a commitment. And we'll talk more about him later in the week. I believe the day is May 23rd. I believe that's right. So that would be what the 17th is today, and this is Monday. So I guess we go back Sunday, I guess. So within a week or so, I expect him to be a Mississippi State Bulldog. And I'm really excited about it. And you should be too. Really, really fine young man and a fine football player as well. All right, let's get ready to get out of here. Many of you guys have reached out. Many of you guys are buying the book, and I want to thank you for that. I get those reports from Amazon, and it's very humbling, to be honest with you. It's one of those things you look at, and you put these things together, and people get excited about it. And I've let some people read some advanced copies of the book, and including your friend Ty Horka, and he said, hey, man, some of this is really incredible, and that means a lot to me. It's very relatable, I think. And so Blooms of Oleander is the new book. You can find it and pre-order it at Amazon, Books A Million, or BarnesandNoble.com. Available at all those websites. And then we're going to do personalized copies through Bookmark and Cafe. So they're going to do that when we do the launch, and that's going to be in about 20 days. June 7th is the release. And so some of you have already called and spoken to them. And so they asked me to communicate to you guys, rather than take your debit card and all your information now, we're just going to wait and do it when the inventory gets there around June 7th. And so if you want signed or personalized copies, that's going to be the way to go about it. You're going to contact Bookmark and Cafe in Starkville. I'll share that information as we get closer. But it is really great, the response so far. I just don't know how these things are ever going to be received. And so many of you have been so gracious to me and so supportive to me and my family. And I can never say thank you enough. If you're looking for Stark Villains gear, I know many of you are, because I get a message at least once a week and say, hey, Steve, what's the website? Very simple, starkvillains.com, and you can get your shirts and hoodies and everything else lined up and ready to go. And again, I'm probably going to make some changes with that line here in the months to come, but that's where you go right now, starkvillains.com. All right. AlphaDogsTheBook.com is where you can get Flim Flam, Stark Villains, and Alpha Dogs if you hadn't done so already. I know some of you guys like to do online shopping, so you can go to AlphaDogsTheBook.com rather than having to go in a bookstore. And if you want any of my books, all you got to do is go to your local bookstore and tell them. Easy enough. I believe in supporting your local bookstore, and so you can get Blooms of Oleander at any bookstore in the country. All right, let's get out of here. It's already a little bit after 1 o'clock, and this has been a 90-minute plus show. And so, listen, I've said some things today, and they are from my heart. They're absolutely what I mean. I know I speak for all of us when I say we are so ready for a national championship in baseball. We don't know how to act. And when we have a weekend like this, it kind of makes us think, you know what, this isn't a year. I mean, I'm so emotionally invested. I'm going to the games. When I can't make it to a game, I'm on the app. I'm watching everything. I'm living and dying with every pitch. And then we get upset by Missouri and we think, oh my gosh, I'm not getting the return on this investment. Guys, it's going to pay off. I don't know if it happens this year, but it's going to pay off. We are going to be crowned national champions sooner rather than later. Hold the rope. It's all going to be okay. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive. Are you thinking more about how to tighten up your budget these days? Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save over $700 on average, and customers can qualify for an average of 6 discounts when they sign up. A little off your rate each month goes a long way. Get a quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed in 2020. Potential savings will vary. Discounts vary and are not available in all states and situations.